You got a spare hand? Can you carry that for me? Okay, you go first and I'll shut the door behind us. If people knew how rubbish I am at playing things, they'd be much more impressed at my records. I mean, they're astonishing. They're amazing. Okay, so this is the front room here. The floor is black and white tiles kitchen floor, because when we came to the house, it was a wooden floor and we put the piano in and it sank through the floor. So anyway, I had the chance to redo it how we wanted it, and so she said, how would you like it? And I said, I like it like a kitchen floor. You know, it's a very nice pop song about, and you always find him in the kitchen on parties, whatever it is. That one. I'm that person. Always prefer the kitchen at parties. I realise my fist was clenched, I stretch my fingers to relax. Alfie says I live in denial, which is fine by me. Works for me, mate, I tell you. Two things that are very undomestic is English inhibitions and total denial. I think they're the two crutches that keep me going. One by one, led across the fence constructed for them. My own personal life has been very chaotic, mostly because so much of it's been spent as being an alcoholic, because it's bad for the memory. But I'm not alcoholic at the moment. Well, at least one is always alcoholic, but if one is alcoholic, but I'm not drinking and I'm not even smoking, and I'm trying the interesting, I think uniquely difficult challenge at the moment of living without any stimulants whatsoever and without any religion, which I think is a challenge very few people would take on. I'm a musician by default, that is to say, as a teenager, what I was interested in was painting. It turns out that a lot of English rock musician comes from people who start out as painters, following the modern art tradition, rather than taking on the kind of incredibly heavy weight of, say, the European music tradition, or even the sheer outrageous nerve of trying to take on the black American tradition or anything. It's just overwhelming. But the art school dance goes on forever, and which means that I don't have to qualify as being adept in any particular known genre musically. I mean, to me, art was blatantly escape from school, from being a adolescent twat, the whole thing. Just get lost in the world of art. And my inspiration were my parents' art books of Picasso and the other painters of the early 20th century. I used to like Paul Klee very much. It's from them that I get all my sense of shape and form. Tears you shed today will pause, waiting until tomorrow. Dreams of what could be. I think it was Stravinsky who said the one thing for which there's no equivalent in any other idiom is the melodic line. There's a brand new day inside. And that is the most elusive and magical thread that's the unique thing about music. Round about midnight. I use a voice because it's the only instrument really left that I can play with any dexterity. But what human voice has is a versatility that is to do with textures created by various combinations of consonants and vowels. No other instrument can even get anywhere near it. I think one of the reasons why I like jazz so much when I was little compared with classical music was jazz had that link with the human voice, with speech patterns. And I found that very moving, the vocalisation of instruments. I mean, in a very simple way, like the way Duke Ellington's trombones would do this, wah, 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 all that sort of thing. There's two sets of mannerisms which are taken on, people start singing it. In popular culture, they're the use of an American accent. And in posh culture, they're what you do with vowels and consonants. So, for example, at school, when you're singing hymns, there's this terrific push which you see in choirs around the country to enunciate in a particular way. There are certain vowels which are, well, soon enough, they're called diphthongs when you've got ow, or you can't say ow, it's r and oo, it's ah, oo. So if you're going round in proper posh English singing, you have to go round, round, and you have to do this very clear R with it, and then clear at the end, which is almost like light as a T, but never there. That is actually, for choir singing and posh singing, perfect. Unfortunately, it makes you sound like a complete prat. It's not class warfare, it's just a fact.
We got on ourselves a run. Let's all away to the round house. We've got on ourselves a run. The naughty sights and sounds house. We've got on ourselves a run. Forget the hippies on Sunday. We've got on ourselves a run. 'Cause culture starts on Monday. We've got on ourselves a run.
My apologies. And I know, I mean, I was brought up on listening to Benjamin Britten and Vaughan Williams and things, and lots of folk songs, which I loved, you know. And Benjamin Britten folk songs were all sort of like that. So I learned other things that I'd still use from his Peter Pears, who was Benjamin Britten's chum, which is a kind of, he had a light, it's out of fashion now, I'm told, but a light tenor and a very slow vibrato. So instead of la, he would go like la dee da dee, as opposed to a much fruitier kind of tremolo or nervous. And I loved that, and I, along with Benjamin Britten's notes, slightly archaic scales, you know, neither major nor minor, but sort of earlier scales that would have been used in various cultures. So Benjamin Britten, I'm talking about old 78s here, and me well under the age of 10, a deep impact on me.
The world is dark again, I need your lullaby. Sleep has gone, night is long again. Sing me your song, let me sing.
My dad had got me violin, and I'd done a couple of years on violin, and I swapped it for a trumpet, and my dad was devastated, and he said, "There's no great concertos written for trumpet." And I said, "Well, yeah, there's Miles Davis and Gil Evans," and he didn't. We'd at that point we'd parted. In childhood we'd been together, got Benjamin Britten, Bartok, even Duke Ellington, Fat Swallow, but at that point we lost contact, which is a shame because it's not long before he died. And so I had that kind of haughtiness, of arrogance of adolescence. And I didn't even do my homework on the trumpet and then everything like this. In fact, that after a first term of, I think, sixth form, I actually went upstairs. My dad had multiple sclerosis. I went up and took his entire bottle of pills and swallowed the lot. And as a consequence of this, I was rushed to hospital when they found me in the bathroom. Stomach pumped. And then the headmaster sort of had a crisis meeting with my parents saying, "He's not happy at school, is he?" So then they, what would he like to do? That, you know, what can he do? And so they said, "Well, I'd probably like to be in an art college." So they packed me off to Canterbury Art College. And I wasn't any good at that either. So that's the trumpet. It's all cold. I can't warm up. Piano's always here, of course. Just a piano, that's what it is. That's about it. There's a recording machine over there, which I hardly know how to work. What I do in here. I wasn't a singer, first of all. When I struggled more and more with painting, and then beat music came along, and I became a beat group drummer, which is great because there's no standards you have to aspire to. All you have to do is sit down in front of a drum kit and play the beat. That's it. That's as hard as drinking water. That was all good, and it wasn't till really a couple of friends in the band started writing tunes or songs without words, and I would start singing. And I started doing them because, like, somebody had to do it. But there's some things you could do, like, for example, if you do James Brown, I Feel Good, you can alternate. I feel good, da-da-da-da-da-da. I knew that I would, da-da-da-da-da-da. I feel fine, da-da-da. And you're banging the drums in the end of the beat and it's just singing on its own without playing the beginning. This requires a cup of tea.
Okay.
Do you want another? Make this cup. Why are we in Louth? I always forget. I don't know. No, it's we had to leave London for the money for a flat in London. You can get a house up here. There's somebody around here said life is cheap in Lincolnshire, and it's a lovely little town actually to live in. Very easy to live in. I can reach anything. I can get to the shops. I'm autonomous. Alfie hardly needs to use that car from one week to the next. It's just really homely place to live. There's a record shop up the road called Off the Beaten Tracks. He puts my records in, so people who go there know who I am. But I don't think what I do sort of registers in a lot of areas. I mean, how would it? You know, I don't do any live gigs. There's nothing you can see. There's no visible signs of what I do. Unless you walk past my house. I think that's a racket. What's going on in there? I remember as a teenager, there used to be a folk club in Canterbury. People used to I was told to go there. But the thing that was really difficult there, I found, was how these normally sort of docile, quite amiable blokes you knew turned into this sort of raving, in-your-face, sweaty lunatics. And I thought, what's that? They've all gone mad. What's the matter with them? So I didn't really drink as a teenager. I thought it was very unhip to be drunk like that. I think it really kicked in 1968. We were on tour in the United States for most of the year, a lot of the year. Soft Machine. We were a support act to Jimi Hendrix Experience at that time. A very, very heavy schedule. So nothing much to do except do the gigs, go to the hotel, next gig, travel gig. Noel and Mitch liked to drink, or five, and I used to go around with them. Like, you might be in New York for a fortnight. And there was a club there called The Scene I used to go to, and that's where Keith Moon used to go, and he used to sit at the bar and he used to dragoon anybody in sight into having a drink with him in almost an arm wrestling way, arm round the neck. Hey up, Keith. And he got me into this thing of alternating Southern Comfort with tequila. He said, we've got to have both because you put the tequila in, and you do the salt, then you have something with that lemon. I've forgotten how you do it. But then it's too sharp, then you've got to have the Southern Comfort, but that's too syrupy, so you've got to have the salt, lemon and tequila and then alternate like this. And why anybody feels the need for illegal drugs, I do not know. You can get so out of your brain perfectly legally. Why trouble the police with your... When people were playing on the same bill as Hendrix, or the guitarist it would be like one of those Wild West things. It would try and be the local gunslinger would try and take him on. Oh God, it was so embarrassing, and embarrassed Hendrix a lot too. With us, there was none of that. We were quite a sort of a youthfully inhibited bunch of provincial English grammar school boys. But by the time we got back, I think I was probably already alcoholic by then. Throwing it back, just heaps of stuff. By the turn of the 60s, I had my moments, but I think I was too erratic to be reliable professionally. I mean, I was really, really physically very reckless. So it's of no surprise to me or anybody who knows me that I eventually broke my back because I was going to do something. But that was about 1973, wasn't it? I was in a band called Matching Mole then, by that time. Fell out a window, broke me back, and started again.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see they bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Well, I was unconscious for the first 6 weeks in hospital when I had the accident, but drugged. And it takes 6 weeks to find out what's trauma and what's permanent damage. Anyway, during that time, Ronnie Scott sent some money, and Alfie's dad Ronald, and then the Pink Floyd did a benefit concert. So they did this concert, which meant that from having absolutely nothing and nowhere to go, we had thousands of pounds. Then a friend of Alfie's, who was a model, was getting a new car, so she gave Alfie her old car. I wish Alfie learnt to drive it, I think. In fact, there's Gene Shrimpton. Gave Alfie a car. I don't normally say their names because it seems like name dropping. On the other hand, people should know how kind people can be. And then Julie bought us a flat. Julie Christie, who was another friend of Alfie's, because we'd been living together in a flat right up the staircase, with no way of getting the wheelchair in and out. We paid it back now, but it took 30 years. And then with this money from Pink Floyd, we were able to start life again, really. But it was very modest for a while, Had to be.
And I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
It's funny not having any religion, but if I did, I would say, of course, that was a godsend. I'm not joking. I'd sort of done what I could do as a biped, really. Not long before I had this fall, I'd met Alfie. We get on very well, and we've stayed getting on good ever since, as far as I'm concerned. She sort of made a life for us, really. And it was time to sort of sit down a bit and try and write a few songs and just sort of hang out with Alfie and not live like that touring thing anymore, that drumming life anymore. I was in my late 20s by then. And the moment I started recording, I was somewhere else again. And suddenly I found my voice, literally and metaphorically, figuratively.
Oh, the world is overburdened with the idle and the rich, basking in the sunshine while we float in the ditch. But we will put some metal in their fingers and their thumbs, but we'll turn things upside down when the revolution comes. Oh, we'll turn things upside down, turn things upside down. They'll wonder what has happened when we turn things upside down.
Politics have been the most consistent body of stuff in my head of all, really, but it has grown, but in the opposite direction to what people assume it does, because I didn't start out in any way as any kind of radical at all. Indeed, throughout the 60s I was a hedonist, and only the most radical thing I ever did was smoke a bit of pot or not have a haircut, which is just like everyone else, really. I only grew into it in the 70s as what happened, I felt, was that the world drifted to the right, towards a sort of conservatism, that those of us born at the end of the Second World War and the beginning of the welfare state thought was gone, thought was total anachronism. In a way, my politics is sort of almost reactionary in a sense. that has grown in importance, and to me is the main event in which I've lived, far more important to me than my own music or what I do, except that I've got to earn a living. It's not just some whimsical hobby. Clive Langer, who wrote the tune there, he said that he'd heard me do Strange Fruit, the song that Billie Holiday sang in the 30s and 40s, that it was the mood of my recording of that he said inspired him to write the tune. Costello did the words. Costello was very on it in terms of lyricist. But I always have to shrink back from any suggestion that it's my political statement. I'm ashamed to say, should be ashamed to say, perhaps. But anyway, I hadn't really thought about it particularly at all, the Falklands War. I hadn't seen it as an issue about work being provided for whom and on what basis. All that is in totally Costello, and I'm very grateful to them for it. And also, it's the only time I ever played with a member of Madness, because it's the Bedders, the bass player in Madness, who plays the double bass on it. One of the great pop groups in England ever, along with the Beatles and the Kings. Madness. So, respect. I absolutely shrink away from standing near the light of what's important about that song. I'm simply the noise machine through which, the instrument upon which Costello and Langer played the tune. I have nothing to say of any value about the Falklands War. I'm simply fag-ridden ancient choir boy bleating away. I just prepare the words and the notes and try and get them in the right order, on the right chords. When we could be diving for pearls. And hope they'll do the work for me. I find that the only way that really works is to sing as close really to how I talk as possible. I try not to stand between the music and the listener, saying it is me expressing myself via this vehicle, the music. I mean, you do have to trick yourself in a way. Artists have to. Perhaps everybody has to. You have to convince yourself while you're doing something that it's very, very, life or death matter. It's very, very important. You need that sense of that it's really, really important to get it right. But you must know objectively that you're probably totally expendable. And I'm not very introspective, really. So life as a prolonged comedy sketch comes from my dad. That what seems to be, what is ostensibly the lightweight approach to looking at things, has authenticity, actually. It's a bullshitlessness. So in my mind, seriousness and mischievousness aren't contradictory, is what I'm saying. Melancholy, I think, it is my sort of default emotional state, really. Except, no, it isn't. There's almost something quite charming about melancholy. To me, life is like... So, here he goes. Anyway, this is the truth. It's like if you're climbing up a mountain, and that's getting older, and you're looking down, then, say, the first few years, you see your own village quite close up, and that's what you know. Then the higher and higher up, you still see your village, but it's smaller, it's mistier, and you see more of the landscape around it, and so on and so on. And then you get to see, right, when you get to the high up mountain, you can see the whole landscape, including right to the horizon, and your village is just a dot beneath you. And I think there's something almost unbearable about looking down on that little village, which used to be the whole world to you, and thinking of the mistakes you made, or the path you could have done to come up here that would have avoided all those thorns, or you can see it now, where you could have gone. You can suddenly see that relationship you nearly had that could have been great and you didn't have it. You sort of see it, and that is really, can be quite unbearable. And there's several things like that I feel about in my life that really make me feel quite tearful. But I say melancholy isn't the word for it. It's worse. It's remorsefulness, perhaps. Not exactly shame, Because you don't know if you can blame your younger self for being younger and stupider. What's the point of that? But remorse. So I'm a bit burdened by remorse, I think. So that would be the counterweight to the more fun to be had side of things. I've got a lot of interests in my life. My own life isn't one of them, which sounds a bit facetious. It's just a fact that I just stumble and bumble through my life not really knowing how to do what it is I'm trying to do.